Hello anyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney, where, it may have been a while again. I know, I'm hopeless. When did I actually last play this? Ooh, 15th of December. Hello from a new year. It's now basically the end of January 2022, because guess who got sick again? It's been a hell of a couple of months, so I kind of don't remember what was going on. Therefore, I apologise in advance for whatever this episode nonsense ends up being. Good lord, can't even speak, we're off to a great start. But I'm determined to finish the series, and so I shall. I hope. Please. Okay, I do remember that we just finished the jury summation thingy. Order, please. Let us resume proceedings. Witnesses, you will now retake the stand. Oh yeah, I don't remember what voices I'd given most of these people, so, you know. Bear with me. I promise I'm doing my best. I presume you heard the defence counsel's summation examination. Oh, yeah, Governor. I did, Gov, I did. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. God blimey. This is going to be hard work. Earlier in this trial, you gave the following testimony about your actions after you entered Winterbanks. Well, it was bedlam soon as, weren't it? It was, Nash, it was. Didn't even have time to pull me dukes out my Lucy lockets. However, that was a lie. You brothers. On the night in question, you rifled through the items on the victim's counter. We never done nothing of the sort. How'd you figure that out? You will now give formal testimony once again. You will tell the court precisely what happened on the night in question, and this time, you will tell the truth. I'll believe that when I see it. Just for the sake of my sanity, I'm gonna have a quick look through the court record. What have we actually got? Okay, that didn't really answer any of my questions, but here we are. Each lie that passes your lips serves to increase the severity of your punishment. And that, gentlemen, may deal a crushing blow to your chances of ever seeing the light of day again. A thought worth pondering, perhaps. Say no more, Gov, we hear ya. We'll blab, we'll squeak, we'll peach. Great. Let's see you do all of those things, I guess. Alright, we did knock a few things over, but we weren't rifling for nothing. Double negative, guilty. It was when we heard the gunshot, see? Made us both jump and all that stuff went flying. Lummy, it didn't half give me a fright. We was thinking the shooter'd come out the door and get us next. We stuck everything back where we found it and scarpered, straight into him in the black. We couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, see? We never even had a chance, did we? So you admit to the defence's accusation. You did indeed ransack Mr. Winterbank's countertop on the night in question. Not ransack, Governor, no. That's right, Nash, that's right. It's more like we tidied up. Yeah. Sure you did. Sorry. By their own admission, these brothers entered the pawnbrokery under dubious circumstances. However, they panicked and fled on hearing the gunshot, having first made good their mess. The way you say it, we hardly sound like roughs at all. We don't, Nash, we don't. Can't you make us sound a bit more cutthroat? It can't just be coincidence that these men showed up at Winterbanks that night. There's more to their testimony than meets the eye. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that there is, but heck if I know what it means. Well, time for good old Ace Attorney. Just press everything and see what happens.
Hold it!
If that's the case, then why didn't you testify to that effect in the first place? Well, you know, we ain't exactly squeaky clean, are we? We ain't, Nash, we ain't. If we admitted something like that, people would think we was up to no good. I wonder why. I said, Ringo, me old China, we'd only land ourselves in even more trouble. And in fact now, as a result of lying in your previous testimony, that's exactly what you've done. Landed yourselves in even more trouble. Ah, well, that's rotten luck, says the rotten apple eater. Witnesses, explain your actions to the court. Why did you ransack the victim's counter? We never ransacked nothing. Right, Nash, right. More like we tidied the place up. Sorry.
Hold it!
So what you're saying is, the sound of the gunshot shocked you so much you knocked all those things off the counter. Well, it shocked one of us that much, yeah. This bag of nerves need to learn to keep his shirt on. Look, it was loud alright. Blimey, me dead granny would have woken up at that bang. Big brother screamed like a bloomin' baby and fell on the counter. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. I got tangled in some marionette what knocked over a picture frame what knocked them scales on the floor. You've really mastered working quietly then. What a racket! Me granny would have been scared back into her grave at a clatter like that. So in short, the gunshot took you by surprise. And then some. I mean, it was quiet as a mouse, and then all of a sudden, BAM! Well, Gregson is angrily eating chips, so let's see what he has to say.
Excuse me!
Inspector Gregson, do you have something to add? Like I keep saying, I don't appreciate being lumped in with these scoundrels. No, something to add about their testimony. You seemed to react just now at what Mr. Skulkin said. Did it make you think of something? It's probably nothing, of course. I wouldn't even bother to mention it, only... Well, the fact is, cases don't get solved if you ignore the little details. How about you just tell us what's on your mind? As you know, we brought these fellas into the yard for questioning last night. And the statement they gave then told a slightly different story to what they're saying now. Did it? You claimed you heard the victim shout something out before the gunshot. Might have, Gov, might have. Does ring a bell now you mention it. Granted, it's only a minor detail, but still. I can't help feeling like perhaps you've been a bit sloppy with your testimony here, eh, fellas? If I discover the witness's testimony has been any more sloppy than it has hitherto proven to be, I shall be forced to bring the very harshest punishment to bear against them. Easy, easy. We'll get it right this time. That's it, yeah. It's all coming back to me now. Then speak. Supplement your testimony with whatever details have miraculously returned to your questionable minds, sirs. Yeah, right you are, Gov. Just before the gunshot, we heard a voice yelling out, "Give me that gun." I presume this will be important, so...
Hold it!
So in fact, you heard the voice and the gunshot almost simultaneously. We did, Gov, we did. Although, I suppose if you're being honest, we heard a kind of wavering voice before the yell and all. If you don't want to get shot, give me that gun! Bam. Kinda thing. A career in acting tragically missed. And where were the voices coming from? Could you tell? Of course we could. From the other side of that door behind the counter it was. From the storeroom where the victim was found dead. And the voice you heard, it was that of the victim, Mr. Winterbank. On my granny's life, of course it was. On his granny's life, of course it was. So that would mean that you both knew Mr. Winterbank and the sound of his voice. Eh? So that would mean what? What, Nash? What? Any ideas? Yes, Counsel, indeed it would. No. We didn't know the geezer. How am I supposed to deny it when that bloke in all the fancy clobber's given us the evil eye? And we all are at this point, mate. If you value your lives, you will ensure your testimony is accurate and true. On my granny's life it is. On his granny's life it must be. It's a good job his granny's dead. Yeah. To summarise then, immediately after hearing the voice of the victim, you then hear the gunshot, causing you to stumble and upset the items on the counter, scattering them over the shop floor. You make it sound like we're clumsy. Don't forget we tidied up after like good little boys. Anyway, the way I see it. Huh.
Hold it!
You're saying that Mr. Winterbank had a gun in his hands? Oh yeah, bet that was a sight, eh? Them two waving them guns at each other. Must have got pretty heated. I mean, just before he shouted out, we heard the geezer say, "If you don't want to get shot..." Didn't really sound like he meant it, mind. More of an empty threat, you could say. Mr. Winterbank was known to keep a revolver on his shop counter at all times. People say that to protect the articles in his keeping, he'd readily put a bullet in someone's head if required. Yeah, but the gun that he kept with him was the one that Gina supposedly used to commit the crime, so this isn't adding up. That someone being himself, of course. Good grief, extraordinary devotion indeed, if alarmingly misguided. Well, he certainly sounded like he was ready to pull the trigger the other night. Only the person he was going to shoot beat him to it. Cooked his goose proper. Bet he wished he'd squeezed the trigger instead of wasting time shouting, "Give me that gun." And it was directly after those words that you heard the gunshot. It was more or less at the same time, Gov. Yes, a career in acting very tragically missed. Then we hear the sound of someone hitting the deck, before everything went dead quiet. After that, we done a slapdash job tidying the place up. Well... So Gina was found holding this, but it was... So I'm gonna guess that's where we present? But because it's been so long, I'm gonna press everything just to be safe.
Hold it!
So you didn't try to open the storeroom door then? Not in your life. It went deathly quiet after that, it did. Put the wind right up me. But anyway, the door was locked, weren't it? No way that was opening. Yes, of course. It was locked from the inside, or so we've been led to believe. It was, Gov, it was! From the inside! Right, so we had no way of knowing what was going on in there, did we? Unless there was some other way to get a view of the inside of the storeroom. Like, through the keyhole or a spy hole, perhaps. Don't ring no bells, don't light no lights. We had to cut and run before we noticed anything like that. Okay, still cutting our teeth, one day. Or really cut the mustard, whatever. Please cut it out, yes. But as we know, behind that door is the victim's lifeless body, with the accused not 2 feet away. Yes, unfortunately. See, that's also kind of a contradiction, because there was a spy hole in the door. Gina was there, unconscious, with the gun in her hand. To confirm, would it be correct to say that neither of you set foot inside the storeroom? That's right, Gov, that's right. Couldn't have, even if we wanted to.
Hold it!
Yes, whereupon you fired a shot from your own gun at Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Oh, yeah, we was a bit hasty there. We was, Nash, we was. Truth be told, I was already shaking like a leaf when you lot turned up. If you're shaking like a leaf, don't put a loaded gun in your hand. Good advice, miss. Good advice. Truth be told, my mind went totally blank. Before your mind goes totally blank, make sure you don't have a loaded gun in your hand. Mental note made, miss. After that, we legged it down the street, but apparently we looked dodgy to the coppers or summit, so they clapped the derbies on us like winking. And after you'd been handcuffed, the police found this revolver in your possession, correct? Well, yeah. But listen, that proves it, done it? Hey! Couldn't have shot the pawnbroker, never had a chance. And why should we believe that? Hey, what? Well, because it's true, innit? The place was totally empty when we went in. At that time, the victim was already in the storeroom, having been forced to open the door by the accused who had a gun to his head. In other words, on the night in question, these two witnesses never even laid eyes on the proprietor of the pawnbrokery, Mr. Winterbank. Correct? You've got it, mister. Down to a T. So the Skulking brothers never actually encountered Mr. Winterbank. Is that really true, I wonder? That's it. That's the full extent of their testimony. What is it, Bruno? You look very fierce. I could pour you some herbal tea if you're tired. Oh, thank you, but I'm fine. Being such a logical thinker, you'll probably laugh. But I feel as though the brothers are still hiding something. Something important. It is nothing more than a feeling, though. I've no proof to support it. Well, feelings can be very logical at times. Sorry? People's expressions, the movement of their eyes, the words they choose. You can take all that in and your brain will quietly analyse it to come up with a feeling like you describe. You've concluded that there's something suspicious about their testimony without knowing why, that's all. I think you should trust your instincts. Iris, thank you. Sometimes I think if she's 10 years old, I must be 5. Yeah, getting real tired of these child geniuses and Ace Attorney, because I am a dub at the age of 24. I want to try presenting the gun on this one, because it's definitely weird.
Objection!
Nope, that's wrong. Okay. An attempt was made. I really don't know what to do here. Huh. Oh, for goodness sake. I looked up a walkthrough because I didn't know what else to do, and I was actually right. I just presented the gun instead of presenting the crime scene photo. 'Cause of course! Right, anyway.
Objection!
So you're saying that on the night in question, the victim, Mr. Winterbank, was wielding a gun, is that correct? That's it, Gov. You got the picture. He has, Nash, he has, no question. And yet, photographic evidence obtained immediately after the incident clearly shows that Mr. Winterbank was not holding a firearm of any description. Eh? You what? Gordon Bennett, that ain't right.
Objection!
There can be no question that the victim's revolver was used in the incident. I would remind the court that Mr. Winterbank's gun was found at the scene. Not only was it identified as the murder weapon, but it was found in the accused's hand. Yeah, that Multool used the victim's own gun to finish him off. Yeah, I know.
Hold it!
Stay exactly where you are, right there. Eh? If the crime had taken place as you've so colourfully described in your testimony, it would give rise to an undeniable and significant inconsistency in the final moments you just acted out. Goodness, are you sure, counsel? You intrigue me, my friend, but let's see some evidence to support your claim. Where is the proof that demonstrates this inconsistency in the witness's portrayal of the victim's final moments? Where would you be?
Take that!
According to their testimony, the witnesses claim to have heard a shout of "Give me that gun," followed by the gunshot. Indeed, with the two events happening almost simultaneously, or so we've been led to believe. Yes, that's right. Now, if that testimony is true, it would mean that at the moment of death, the victim and his attacker would have been facing each other. However, in the autopsy report, it clearly states that the victim died instantly after being shot from behind. Ah. So, as I stated before, there is an undeniable inconsistency in your testimony, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Yeah, they're bad. What a surprise. The shopkeeper had a gun in his hand, we saw it with our own bleeding eyes. Did I hear you right just now? You actually saw Mr. Winterbank holding a gun? Something like that might have slipped out. Good lord, these two are hopeless. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all just heard the admission by these two witnesses that on the night in question they actually saw with their own eyes the victim wielding a gun. Which can only mean that despite their testimony to the contrary, the Skulkin brothers must have encountered the victim in person. Nash, wow, what idiots. I mean, Ace Attorney's got to Ace Attorney, but, you know, would be nice to have a competent witness for once in our lives. Witnesses, explain yourselves at once. Well, the thing is, it weren't supposed to, It would seem that my previous warning fell on deaf ears. I made it quite clear that false witness would be the death of you. Am I to understand that you replaced the untruths of your original testimony with renewed lies? Ever so sorry, Governor. Truth is, Cut it out, Nash, cut it out! If we blab now, you know what it'll do to us. He? Who are they talking about? Is this Mr. Dancing guy from earlier on, who I remember because of his majestic sprite animations? Let me make your position here perfectly clear. You will talk. There is no other option available to you. Bruv, come on, the game's up. But he'll have our guts for garters. In case it hasn't quite sunk in yet, no matter how hard you try to hide it, the truth will come out. On the night in question, it is now apparent that you brothers met face to face with the victim. I demand that you testify again to explain the precise circumstances under which this meeting took place. Well, do we have to? On pain of death. I suggest you make yourselves fully aware that this is your very last chance to tell the truth. I mean, is he actually allowed to threaten them with death for that? I'm not complaining at him threatening them for this, because dear lord I'm tired, but can he kill them for perjury? Because if so, that's setting a very upsetting precedent for the rest of the series. We're making a lot of bodies here. Alright, so we just got inside the gaff and heaved a sigh of relief when the geezer showed his mug. Give me that gun, he bellowed, and now he flew at us like he was possessed. I thought we'd had it. For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox. He chucked me over the counter. I pulled my gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. So you're now telling us that moments before the victim was killed in the storeroom, you in fact encountered him in the main part of the shop? Well, yeah. Sorry. Well, we find ourselves at an interesting juncture. This changes matters considerably. But honest, Governor, this time, Nash, this time, we ain't got nothing more to hide. I feel like I'm about to prove that wrong. Very well, counsel for the defence, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. This is it, the moment I've been waiting for. Is it? This doesn't feel that much more significant than it had previously, but okay. That could just be me being a dumb.
Hold it!
When you say geezer, I presume you mean the victim and proprietor of the shop, Mr. Winterbank. Who else? Sorry, I mean, that's right. We was keeping a close eye on the entrance to the gaff, obviously. But we never thought no one was going to come out of the back room like that. The back room being the pawnbrokery's storeroom. Yeah, that must be where he popped up from. Only place he could have been. So it would seem the victim was already in the storeroom when these brothers entered the premises. Which means Ginny must have been in there at that point as well. That doesn't make sense, does it? If Gina had threatened Mr. Winterbank into the storeroom with her at gunpoint, then why would he have emerged from the same room all alone when the brothers arrived? And with his gun? Oh, I don't know. Me neither, Iris. Me neither. Did you see the accused at that time? Well, that mole tooler? Couldn't tell you. No way, Cobber. We had bigger fish to fry then. I mean, the old geezer just lost it.
Hold it!
You mentioned that Mr. Winterbank shouted those words in your previous testimony too. However, you claim that you heard him yelling them on the other side of the storeroom door. Oh, here. Did we? But the truth is, he was shouting those words at you, wasn't he? Well, yeah. It was the victim, Mr. Winterbank, wielding a gun at the time. Was he ever? Blimey, Lummy, a great ugly barrel he had, pointed straight at my frontispiece. So what you're saying is, you definitely saw Mr. Winterbank with the gun at that time. Is that right? It is, Gov, it is. Spot on. And all of a sudden he came at us, he did. It was bedlam. I didn't know we was going through. We were clearly all going for each other. Like Nash said, we thought we'd had it. I mean... For an old geezer, the bloke was strong as an ox, etc. Yes, I noted that you mentioned the counter in your previous testimony too. Well, yeah, of course we did. He knocked over a load of books, a candlestick, and some skull whatnot. I got tangled in some yeah, okay. So in fact, it wasn't the sound of the gunshot that shocked you and made you knock those things off the counter. Well, Big Brother went flying over that counter like a gunshot, I can tell you. Then the old geezer pinned him. You did, Nash, you did. If you hadn't been there, the bloke would have flattened me like a blooming pancake in seconds. At the time in question, the alarm was raised at the local police station via a secret cable from the pawnbrokery. There is a button under the counter used to activate it, which was presumably pressed by the victim. That's right, when the brothers fled the scene and back onto the street, they ran straight into the arriving police, didn't they? Oh, Mr. Winterbank, he did everything he could to protect his shop. I pulled my gun on him and then legged it through that door into the back room. We never had nothing to do with killing him. That's all what happened, I swear. Okay, I didn't actually need to read that.
Hold it!
Were you intending to shoot Mr. Winterbank? No, never. I was just, you know, looking out for my bruv, weren't I? He was being flattened, don't forget. By a man whose shop was being burgled, yes. And then, the man fled into the storeroom when you pointed your gun at him, is that it? Pointed? Good lord, I can't read today. Oh, give me a break, it's been kind of a long weekend. Yeah, that's it. He shoved me away, then ran off through that door and shut himself in. There's something about that last remark. Something that doesn't quite ring true. I wonder why Mr. Winterbank ran away into the storeroom. What? Well, according to what everyone's saying, Ginny was in there waiting for him, with a gun. Ah, yeah, that's right. Gina allegedly used Mr. Winterbank's gun to threaten him and force him to open the storeroom door. In which case, how did the gun end up in Mr. Winterbank's hands again? This is what I've been asking for a while now, but I have no idea. But that is strange, isn't it? This little inconsistency could be significant. I should make a mental note of it. Look, the point is, me and my brother... That's right, Nash, that's right. Me and my brother... Okay, so we've made note of it, but I don't really know what we're doing with that information. You say you had nothing to do with it? Nothing at all? Nothing, Gov, nothing! The old geezer went and shut himself in the back room, didn't he? Locked it was, from the inside. We know it was, because we tried to open it. It's a decent door, that one. Good and strong, wouldn't budge an inch. So in the end, the situation remains unchanged. Inside the storeroom with the pawnbroker, there was only one other person. The sole person who could possibly have shot the victim. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade. Yeah, but she didn't have the gun. Would indeed appear so. What say you to that, counsel? I don't know. Was there anyone else apart from Gina who could possibly have shot Mr. Winterbank? I don't see why not. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Eh? What? What's that look for? From the moment you admitted that you'd encountered the victim face to face that night, the course of this trial changed completely. It did? What is your point, my friend? The question we must answer is, who could have shot Mr. Winterbank? And it's the belief of the defence that the defendant is not the only possible answer at all. You have my attention. In that case, let us return to this plan of the premises. The victim was killed in the storeroom, which was locked from the inside. Those are the facts. So pray, what other possible answer to the question of who shot the man could there be? Counsel, you must now provide answers to the court in respect of two conundrums. Two, my lord? Twice as many chances to be right, maybe? Indeed, namely, from what location did the culprit shoot the victim? And furthermore, where was the victim at the time? Understood, my lord. Are you alright, Bruno? I'm not entirely sure, but there's one thing I am sure about. If I can prove that there's a credible new alternative to what happened, it would change Gina's prospects hugely. So now, time for some clarity. Show the court on this plan the answers to the questions posed by his lordship. If you believe someone else could have killed the victim, indicate from where that person could have fired the gun. From behind the counter.
Take that!
The defense believes that the culprit could have shot the victim from this location here. And in answer to the second question, assuming the culprit fired from the location indicated, where was the victim at the time?
Take that!
Oh, it went quiet. That's usually a good sign. The culprit shot the victim from outside the storeroom. Continue. Mr. Winterbank died instantly from a bullet wound in his back. Looking at the stain of blood on the storeroom floor, it doesn't appear that the body was moved after death, which tells us that he was almost certainly shot while he was in the storeroom. However, the crucial point is, where was the shooter when the fatal bullet was fired? So you are adamant that the shot was fired from outside the storeroom? Well, according to the Skulkin brothers' earlier testimony, I pulled my gun on him, and then he legged it through that door into the back room. If Mr. Winterbank ran away through the door, we have to assume that the door was open at the time. Well, that's a good point. It was at precisely that moment, when the victim was fleeing for his life, that these brothers had the perfect opportunity to shoot the man in the back once he was inside the storeroom. Come to think of it, do you remember what the prosecutor said at the start of the trial? No, Iris, I don't. Moving on to the findings of Scotland Yard's coroner. His report states that the bullet entered the body on a rising diagonal trajectory. It means the victim was likely shot by someone significantly shorter in height than himself. And who is standing on a box at the witness stand?
Poor man, shot while he was running as fast as he could to safety.
Ah, of course! He would have been leaning forward as he was running away. So even if the bullet was fired horizontally, it would still have entered his body on an upward trajectory.
So the culprit isn't necessarily someone shorter than Mr. Winterbank.
Objection!
I'm sure my friend can't have forgotten that the storeroom door was found closed and locked from the inside. You claim the victim was shot as he fled into the room. You also claim his corpse was dexterous enough to turn the key in the lock. But... what if someone else locked the door? Yes, there is someone else who could have locked the storeroom door. Is that so? Well, Gina, she was in there, so... present your hypothesis. In the scenario just described, the defence's assertion is that the victim was shot from outside the storeroom. Who shut and locked the storeroom door from the inside? There she is. Obviously, the person who locked the door was the only other person inside the storeroom at the time. The defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade.
Objection!
Ignore my dramatic pause for drink break. Oh, good lord. And Longku Fire Emblems has decided to make an appearance. Yes, I love you too, Longku. Give me a second to eject the cat. That's absurd. You're suggesting that the accused deliberately engineered the sealed room. For what possible reason? Such actions would only serve to tighten the noose around her neck. I'm inclined to agree, I must say. Well, counsel? I guess she locked it for her own safety so that they wouldn't shoot her? Yes, that's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Half-baked notions have no place in my courtroom, counsel. Remember that, please.
But of course Ginny would have locked the door. It almost goes without saying, doesn't it?
It does?
Well, if I was Ginny in that situation, I know I would have locked the door as quickly as I could. I mean, those two burglars had just fired a gun in her direction, hadn't they?
Oh yes, obviously. Great, I'm on the same level of mental strength as a 10-year-old. Woohoo! Before the two brothers arrived, Miss Lestrade and Mr. Winterbank were in the storeroom together. Now, I don't know what went on between them at that time, but at some point, Mr. Winterbank must have heard the intruders breaking into his shop and left the storeroom. Longku, no! My baby boy! You're being annoying! I love you, but you're not needing to eat my microphone right now. Oh, don't you just love cats? Intruders, that's us. If your theory is correct, that would leave the accused alone in the storeroom. Yes, it would. Then, probably only moments later, the victim fled back through the storeroom door, hoping to escape danger. Hit in the back by the bullet, Mr. Windibank fell to the floor where he was, just inside the storeroom. And what we have to ask ourselves now is, what would the defendant have done in that moment? I see where you're going with this. Outside the storeroom was a terrifying killer who had just murdered Mr. Windibank. As soon as that thought struck at Miss Lestrade, she slammed the door shut and locked it. In order to save her own life.
Hold it!
But we ain't the ones who done it. We ain't, Gov, we ain't. You gotta believe us. I mean, come on, we'd never shoot no one. Again, double negative, arrest them.
Objection!
That's blatantly untrue. I know for a fact that you would. Because before my own eyes, you shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes. There is only one logical conclusion here. Mr. and Mr. Skulkin, you brothers had every opportunity to have been the true perpetrators of Mr. Windibank's murder. Yeah, that about sums it up. Where does this leave us? You mean to say it wasn't the pickpocket who shot the pawnbroker after all? I should have known it was those three brothers. They look as shady as a dense forest. That was amazing, Bruno. All the members of the jury seem to be firmly on your side now. I know, first time ever, and probably the last. Well, I think you've done it. Surely they'll have to give a verdict if not. Yeah, I know this isn't where it ends, and that hurts me. An admirable effort, my friend. What's this now? He's laughing. You find the situation amusing, Lord Van Zeeks? I myself find the defence's argument most persuasive. I dare say, such chicanery is the bread and butter of the street performers in your provincial nation. But such blatantly malicious conjuring tricks amount to nothing more than inexcusable pettifoggery here. Inexcusable what now? The hypothesis you put forward so ostensibly credibly cannot and will not stand. Because, you see, it contains a fatal flaw. A fatal flaw? Do you mean to tell me that you're unaware of your logic's failing? I mean, yes, but I haven't played the game in over a month, so cut me a break. I say, Lord Van Zeeks. Might be an idea to explain this bally conjuring trick or whatever it is to the troops on the ground, The fatal flaw in my friend's argument is really very simple to understand. Assuming you're not too dim-witted to count bullets. By George, count bullets?
Oh dear. You noticed then?
Huh? What's everyone talking about? Counsel. Yes, sir? Tell the court how many bullets were found at the scene of the crime. Two bullets. Correct. The first, that which hit the victim in the back, ending his life. And the second, that which struck the detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, on his arrival at the scene. Indeed. The defense presented a picture showing the damage caused by the second bullet earlier in the proceedings. The bullet which injured Mr. Sholmes appears to have passed through his body to strike the calendar. Your lordship's understanding is correct. Furthermore, we know there are two firearms involved in the incident. The revolver belonging to the victim, Mr. Windibank, and the Skulkin brothers' revolver. The evidence shows that a single bullet was fired from each gun. Yes, indeed it does. A single bullet from each. Now then, my friend. You yourself told the court only moments ago that these two brothers shot Mr. Herlock Sholmes right before your eyes. Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, I think you'll find that if the single bullet was fired from the brother's gun hit Mr. Sholmes, it means Winterbank not shot by same gun, stop. Only one bullet, stop. Exactly. Yes, this street performer presented an ostensibly credible argument. However, it was never anything more than a diversionary trick with no hope of standing up to scrutiny. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, that's a problem. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging the dregs of this hallowed nectar into the public gallery. Lord Van Zeeks. You really gotta stop doing that, mate. But this court needs to open its eyes. The accused, Miss Gina Lestrade, is no ordinary little girl. Despite her young years, she can, regrettably, no longer be described as juvenile. No, the person in the dock is far from a law-abiding citizen. She has a past riddled with criminal conduct. The truth is, the accused broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question with loathsome intent. As we can see beyond doubt in this print which depicts her threatening the victim with the murder weapon. Oh yeah, I forgot that happened, not gonna lie. And I have here in my possession one more piece of evidence the prosecution wishes to present. Oh yeah, that thing. I'll be taking that whatever it is of Begilded's down to the yard, thank you very much. No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine! I'm sorry, miss. But anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Yes, that music box disc. McGilded's music box disc. The very day before the hateful murder of Mr. Winterbank, the accused attempted to make off with this article, which clearly doesn't belong to her. And with none of the subtlety of a pickpocket, I might add, but by brute force and brazen impudence. Good gracious! Make no mistake, any sympathy for the accused on account of her years is misguided and dangerous. There are no depths to which this girl would not stoop if pushed, no crime she would not commit. The court forgets that fact at its peril. I see. I think it would be prudent to take this music box disc into evidence, counsel. As grim testament to the... Lord Van Zeeks, Inspector Gregson? What? Yes, Inspector. We had a meeting yesterday at the yard with the prosecution service, and, I think it was agreed that disc wouldn't be used as evidence. What's this all about? Why is the inspector acting strangely? That's the first time he said anything to Van Zeeks at all. And why would they not... Sorry, I was so shocked I forgot to voice act. I am unaware of any such meeting. But those were the instructions right from the top. The government bigwigs were insistent. Inspector, I am the prosecutor, and I alone determine how to present my case. I was gonna say I alone determine how to prosecute my case there. Maybe I should go to sleep. Your warning is noted. Thank you. Oh dear. The prosecution wishes to proceed with submitting this disc as evidence, my lord. Indeed. Bailiff? Okay. The prosecution has established the accused's motive, opportunity, and baseness of character. There is nothing more to add. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I await your informed decisions, and rest my case. Yeah, I'm going to stop there for the night. I'm tired. But progress was made for the first time in a while. I don't believe it. I had the jury on my side for once for all of 5 minutes.
Oh dear, it wasn't even for 5 minutes, Runo.
My lord. Wonder if I might say something at this point. Proceed, Mr. Foreman. Been stumbling about in a bit of a fog up to now, if truth be told, but all of a sudden... The answer's barely obvious to me and my men. There's only one thing for it. Oh no. Very well, the court will hear from the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you will present your leanings as to the defence's culpability.
Guilty.
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 Guilty!
Guilty.
Woohoo! Well, this is a great point to come back in on. I may have taken a break for a while, and this is what nonsense I come back to. You know, that's super helpful, so let's see if I remember what was going on again. We have a consensus among the jury, it seems. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. Okay, thank you, Herlock.
That's my line. I wrote that for Hurley. Oh, how dare he use it against us?
Don't worry, Iris. I don't think we're finished yet. Also, that means he reads The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, which is really funny to me. There's still more to this case than we realise. There must be, because there's one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. Gina didn't shoot Mr. Winterbank. That's beyond any doubt. Very well. We'll proceed with the second summation examination of the day. Oh, good. Mr. Foreman, are you and the other jurors ready? Guard-up squadron is primed and ready for action, sir. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have now determined the defendant to be guilty. Well, let's see if I have to figure out how to cross my eyes for this one. Once a rogue, always a rogue, I say. Different breed to us law-abiding citizens. Isn't your wife in jail right now, mate?
As only 2 bullets were found at the scene, I would say the whole case is done and dusted.
You don't need a stereoscope to see the truth there. Every which way you look at it, it was that pickpocket. I never imagined that simple operation would cause me such grief.
The accused attempted a theft on the previous day. I can see I'm in for a busy day ahead.
I am ballistics expert. I have seen many shootings. There is nothing I do not know about guns. Reassuring? It would seem there is little remaining room for doubt. Are you kidding? Like, maybe 2 of them said anything relevant to the case. I have to admit I was rather bowled over by the argument put forward by the chap in black. But when that fell apart like a house of cards, I thought I'd jolly well been hoodwinked. Well, no more. Ugh, the whole courtroom is turning against me.
It's not fair.
Iris?
That prosecutor's being mean. Just because Ginny's done something she shouldn't have done in the past, that doesn't make her a murderer.
Allow me to savour this fruity vintage while I savour the spectacle of your fruitless debate on the matter. Yeah, you just keep getting day drunk in court, whatever. Here's to the truth coming out. Eventually. That's enough preamble. Counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. Here goes nothing. That was not the button I wanted. Okay, we're off to a good start.
Hold it!
Just because Miss Lestrade has a history of pickpocketing, she must be guilty of murder, is that what you're saying? Well... Are all members of the British Army so quick to judge? I beg your pardon? Are you mocking Her Majesty's Armed Forces, the greatest military organisation in the world? No, I'm simply illustrating my point. Making assumptions about people because they're a soldier or a pickpocket is wrong and dangerous. Huh, well, yes, might have a point there, I suppose. Let's not forget the girl had already shown she had it in her from before. She's clearly a criminal sword through and through, can't deny it. When you say that she'd shown she had it in her, are you referring to this? Exactly. Tried to swipe that only a day earlier, Or am I mistaken? Not exactly. Given that I was actually there at the time, it's hard to refute that.
I've never actually seen the real thing. I can't wait to have a closer look at it.
Oh, yes, of course. Is that a hint that we should look at it? Mr. Shams did use his caramel bars to make a copy of the disc, didn't he? And then ordered every type of music box he could find from across Europe. Because of course that's the thing he would do.
We still don't know what tune it plays though, do we? But I'd love to see how the original compares to Hurley's copy.
McGilded's disc. Could it be a clue somehow? Perhaps we should examine it in more detail. Yeah, I see what you're hitting me over the head with, game. While we're here, let's give that a look.
Oh, Bruno, look! This is blood!
Yes, you're right. Just a small smear, but definitely blood. Oh, I wonder if we can test it and see whose it is. Actually, I feel as though I might have noticed that before.
Then it's my time to shine again. I thought I'd be waiting forever. Alright, hold still with that disc, Bruno.
Can we get this done quickly, Iris?
In a flash!
So we're just going to shoot the evidence in the middle of court. Great.
Ooh, a lovely bright shade again.
We've seen that colour. I don't remember whose it is, though.
What is it?
It's just that green. It's not the first time we've seen that colour, is it?
For McGilded. That's the man you defended in court a couple of months ago, isn't it, Bruno?
Yes, or rather mistakenly defended.
I wonder what his name is doing on the back of this disc.
That's a question I'd love to know the answer to myself. Right, let's have a look at our blood samples. Huh. 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 That wasn't what I expected. I'll stop making confused noises at it now and carry on with the game, I guess.
Hold it!
It's the number of bullets that has you convinced.
Only 2 bullets were fired, and the 2 guns that fired them have been examined by the police. When the parlour maid asks how many are invited for dinner, I always tell her to count the table settings.
Well, that's logical, I suppose.
Although,
Yes?
sometimes after dining, crockery does go missing. 1 or 2 guests rather like the fine china.
Does your employer dine with thieves?
So I suppose. If there was another bullet somewhere of which we were unaware.
Are we going to waste attorney 1 this again? Was the bullet in someone's shoulder the whole time?
I'd have to reconsider my position.
I wonder if the bullet was still inside Sholmes. That's the operation that the guy's been talking about, and he's worried because... Wasn't he worried because he left something in there? Huh. Put in that BuzzFeed Unsolved, I'm connecting the dots. You haven't connected anything. I'm connecting them, because that's where I'm at right now. I can prove it, I think, but I don't know if I can now. Allow me to show you then, the 3rd bullet. Or not, but I don't think I can actually back out of this now that I've started it, so... Woohoo! I literally have nothing that could be considered a bullet in here. Fabulous. I know, this actually has a bullet in it, so...
Take that!
Yeah, figures. Ouch. That's harsh. I could read it, but the good old jaw arthritis is being a pain again. In many ways, so I'm not going to bother reading this. It has indeed been a long day. Yeah, you're right, Iris. I think I know how to find it. I think I've got to talk to the doctor guy, but you know.
Hold it!
So if I've understood correctly, you need two pictures, a left eye one and a slightly different right eye one, yet we've been through this at length. Can we not? Exactly, there you can see the scene in 3 dimensions. Like this. So, if we have 2 bullets, I don't suppose you can see anything useful with them. I think you'll find that no matter how much you squint, the truth of the situation always looks the same here. The only person who could have shot the victim is that girl in the dock. How can you be so sure of that? Think about it, the Skulkin brothers shot the great detective, didn't they? Yes, that's been mentioned once or twice. Well then, surely it's coming into focus now, isn't it? This is a waste of time. I'm not going to change this man's mind anytime soon. Yeah.
Hold it!
Would you please stop muttering about things that have nothing to do with this trial, sir? The defendant's life is on the line here. Well, the thing is, I couldn't really say that it has nothing to do with this trial, to be honest. Huh? I mean, there's no question that the man was shot, but the bullet had simply vanished from his stomach. It's quite inexplicable, don't you think? I almost don't want to ask, but this surgery you've been muttering about all this time, you were operating on... What was the fellow's name now? Herlick? No. Herlock? No. Hairlock. Herlock Sholmes, by any chance? Yes, good lord. It was that Hairlock fellow. What? You're the surgeon that operated on Mr. Sholmes? That's right, I'm using the very latest anesthesia techniques, I might add. It was a fairly major op, I can tell you. Ugh, ignore my hiccuping. This is crazy. Let me see, the fellow was brought in not long after midnight, if I remember correctly. They said he'd been shot by some criminal or other, so I opened him up like a shot. But the funny thing is, I went over his insides with a fine-tooth comb and I couldn't find the bullet anywhere. So I'm afraid I had to throw up my hands and just stitch the fellow back up. Okay, that's terrifying. I hate to state the obvious, but... Yes? Surely that's because the bullet is still at the scene of the shooting. The counsel for the defence is correct. As is clearly shown in this photographic print. The bullet that the Skulkin brothers fired at Mr. Sholmes hit him in the stomach region, then exited his body and lodged into the shop wall where the calendar was hanging by the door. Is this where we find out there was no exit wound? I think you'll find it's really quite simple if you just consider the problem 3-dimensionally. Who do you think I am, son? Well, juror number 4 is about the best I can do. As soon as I saw the wound to the man's stomach, I flipped him over. Like a pancake? Are you saying that you checked his back? Of course I did, and there wasn't a trace of injury. No sign that the bullet had left the body at all. What? That's the point. The only logical conclusion was that the bullet was still somewhere in the man's innards. Which is exactly why I set about slicing him up. And I'm still none the wiser even now. How many times do I have to say it? Can somebody please explain how it happened? Can somebody please solve the mystery? It's almost as much of a mystery as how this jury was put together. Yeah, isn't that the hacking summary of this game? Huh.
Hold it!
What do you mean you're in for a busy day? Forgot to say, stop. Do excuse me, stop. I'm a communications officer, stop. A communications officer? Does that have something to do with sending telegrams? Everything from personal messages written by members of the public to the latest news in the capital. I convert all the messages into Morse code and tap it out for the entire world electronically. To the entire world? Thousands of miles of cable under the sea, stop. Worldwide communication network, stop. Information transmitted to and from all corners of the globe, stop. Ah yes. She was getting equally worked up about radio waves or the like before, wasn't she? I specialise in communicating information from government departments and newspaper offices. I see. I'm sure I shall have to widen newspaper reports of today's guilty verdict later. So no sleep for me tonight, I imagine. Let's just finish the trial first, shall we?
Hold it!
I thought you were just a tourist. Good day. I am visiting London for sightseeing. I would like to take bus to Crystal Tower, please. There's no way he's just a visiting tourist. So, you're a ballistics expert. Who knew? I have much experience with guns. Ah. I have lived through many, how do you say? Extreme. Violent bath of, no. Blood of,
Extreme violent bloodbaths, perhaps.
says the 10-year-old. Yeah, those. Extremely violent bloodbaths. English is a very difficult tongue. Yeah, that's true. Considering the sort of people you associate with, I'm surprised you still have a tongue. That took a turn. Anyway, if you have questions about bullets and guns, you ask me. There's nothing I do not know, no mystery I cannot solve. Well, we know what to do next, then. He's very competent in his knowledge of guns, that's for sure. But, if possible, please, only in Russian language.
He's not very confident in his knowledge of English, though, is he?
No. Still, we should bear it in mind. He's our man if there's a mystery about guns or bullets. Was the game always smacking me this hard over the head with information? I swear it wasn't. Eliminated the impossible, etc. Okay. Not the right button! This is really annoying. I've been playing a lot of PlayStation 4 recently, and so what I tried to press was what X would be on that controller.
Objection!
Alas, it was not. Those two statements clearly contradict the idea that all I do is pit jurors against each other. Ooh, a ballistics expert. Pitting. P-I-T-T. On the night in question, Mr. Sholmes was shot by one of the Skulkin brothers. But since there was no sign of an exit wound on his back, we must assume the bullet didn't pass through him. However, no bullet was found lodged in Mr. Sholmes' body either. Furthermore, a bullet was found lodged in the wall of the shop where Mr. Sholmes was shot. My new guess is that the green blood is Fancy Pants Dancing Man from earlier on. Eggs Benedict, or whatever his name was. Juror number 6. Hello, my name is Villain. Pleased to meet you. There's apparent contradiction in the fact that is so clearly troubling juror number 4. Are you able to explain the mystery? Wow, it's very stormy here currently. We're having major issues in the UK with weather warnings, and exactly as the music faded out, there was a really loud, howling of wind outside. That was weirdly ominous. Anyway, moving on. I have seen very similar situation in Motherland. It was night. There was blizzard. I was running away along Mountain Road in freezing cold. Very similar. Golly. The snow was piling high on both sides of the road. It was very narrow and dangerous. My pursuers had hunting rifles and they were on dog sleds. Mental note, don't ask too many questions. I was shot from behind and I fell down in snow. And the situation was very similar to what I heard today from Doctor. They could not find bullet in my body. And no sign of, how do you say, exit wound. Then where did the bullet go? Bullet never hit me. Well, if it never hit you, why did you fall down? Bullet hit frozen wall of ice very close to my side. What? One small piece, very sharp, broke away from lump of ice and pierced my body. It made deep wound that looks just like bullet wound. Good gracious. Of course, piece of ice quickly melted inside me. And that is solution to mystery of disappearing bullet. Great, so we've got to find a melting bullet. That's not difficult at all. But that doesn't answer the question at all. The shooting happened in a pawnbroker's shop. Not some snowy mountain road in another country. Is it going to have hit his hecking caramel and he got shot by caramel and then it dissolved? That's one way to have blood sugar. Just an idea, but we might not be looking at exactly the same scenario here.
Runo? Where exactly was Hurley shot again?
Well, according to the report, in his stomach, sort of around this area, I think.
Well, that's precisely where he always wears a little pouch on his belt.
A pouch? Actually, I might have noticed something like that.
Yes, a pouch. It's where he keeps 3 glass vials of very dangerous chemicals that he uses in his investigations.
Oh, good. What? Really? Doctor, where's the pouch Mr. Sholmes was wearing? Well, the fellow had nothing like that on his person when he arrived at the hospital, as far as I remember. If I may. Lord Van Zeeks? Well, I realise it is forbidden for the prosecution to interject during a summation examination. I should inform the defence that I have the pouch in question in the antechamber outside the courtroom. Sorry? As I understand it, when the police arrived on the scene and found Mr. Sholmes injured, they removed the pouch in order to assess the wound. Ah, thank goodness. I thought I was getting forgetful for a moment. Since then, it has been in my safekeeping along with all other evidence relating to the case. I can personally vouch for the fact that it has not been touched since the incident occurred. Okay. Very well. Well, extremely unconventional during a summation examination. I must demand the prosecution presents the item in question with all speed. Bring forth Mr. Herlock Sholmes's pouch. I see. So this pouch worn by Mr. Sholmes on the night in question, is it? Look at that! One of the files is broken and the leather around it is scorched black. It's almost as if the file exploded. Exploded? So that night, the bullet from the Skulkin brothers' gun struck Mr. Sholmes's pouch, and it was the glass file exploding that caused the fellow's injury. This bullet did not penetrate victim, but was deflected into wall of shop. Then why is there blood on it? A delightfully complex aroma. Well, it would appear one mystery has been solved at least. Though it has no bearing on the truth of this case. The bungling and burgling brothers shot the detective, and the accused shot the pawnbroker. The pertinent facts of the case remain unaltered. Ugh. But at least the mystery is solved. I can sleep easy tonight. Thank you, young man. Thank you very much. Glad I could help. Due to its bearing on the conundrum just solved, the court will sequester the scruffy pouch as evidence.
Hurley's pouch isn't scruffy.
Okie dokie. Let's have a look at that. Is there a bullet in it? Because that would be helpful to my case. Yeah, there it is. It's really scorched badly just here.
Oh, the strap is broken, look!
This must be where the bullet hit then.
Let me see.
Hello, bullet. This file has been smashed to pieces. Presumably this is where the bullet struck.
As soon as the bullet hit the chemical in that file, there would have been a really big explosion.
A big explosion?
Hurley's potions and chemicals are amazingly useful for the investigation work he does. But they're also quite tricky to handle. Safely, at least. They're very dangerous.
Oh.
I'm sure that when this file broke, the chemical inside would have ignited.
Note to self, always walk on the right-hand side of Sean's in the future. The left is the danger zone. Anyway, to the point. What the? Iris, look! Behind where the broken fire was, do you see it?
Ah, that's Skulkin Brothers' bullet!
What a stroke of luck that it hit his pouch. This is an amazing discovery. What this means is, there were 3 bullets fired at Winterbanks that night.
We found exactly what that juror was talking about.
Wow, it's really hitting me over the head this time.
The 3rd bullet!
It's time to press that juror again, I think. Okay, and this time we can do it correctly. Always helpful. Now, the summation examination. It would appear the defence is somewhat struggling to alter opinion, huh? Please, my lord, a little more time. After all, that's a new piece of evidence. It could be a valuable clue, and you can't afford to overlook anything here, Inosuke. There's still a way to turn this around, somehow. I'm sure of it.
Hold it!
I can prove it. And I actually can this time, good lord. Isn't that a change? Ooh, they actually gave it to me as a piece of evidence. That's fun. This is the bullet that was fired from the Skulkin Brothers' gun on the night of the incident.
Yes, so it turns out it never actually entered Hurley's body at all.
Thanks to the thick leather of that pouch he was wearing, it saved him.
Hurley's always lucky like that.
Well, considering what he had to go through in the hospital, I wonder how lucky he really was.
Oh dear, poor Hurley.
And on that charming note...
Take that!
Here it is. We discovered it just now. Yes, on the night in question in Winterbank's pawnbrokery, another bullet was fired.
Hold it!
What is this new trickery, you conjurer? Where did you find that bullet? It was lodged inside Mr. Sholmes's pouch. What? I love that sprite of his. It's so dramatic. His pouch was removed from around Mr. Sholmes's waist before he was taken to hospital. And since then it has been touched by no one. Do you mean to say the shot fired by the Skulkin Brothers that night? Yes, as your lordship has surmised, it hit this pouch. That makes no sense whatsoever. We already know the whereabouts of the bullet fired at Mr. Sholmes. It's clearly visible in this photographic print. Ah. 2 guns from the scene have already been submitted into the court record as evidence. Yes, that of Mr. Winterbank and that belonging to the Skulkin Brothers. An examination of both guns revealed that only a single bullet had been fired from each.
Ah!
But that must mean... That's right. We now know that on the night in question, 3 bullets were fired. However, only 2 bullets were fired from the guns recovered from the crime scene. And until that incontrovertible inconsistency is somehow explained, we cannot and must not pass judgment. Ugh. Ah. While this summation examination remains incomplete, the court has been presented with new facts. Facts that would appear to shake the very foundations upon which the case against the defendant has been built. As is my prerogative in this situation, I hereby temporarily suspend the summation examination. By Jupiter! What? Bailiff, bring the witnesses back to the stand at once. Oh really? We're doing this again? Good lord, can we not catch a break? I would like to not talk to these 2 anymore. I'll let Gregsy stay. He has chips. Witnesses. Governor? Were you listening to proceedings while the defence carried out the summation examination? We was, Governor, we was. Perhaps we can dispense with the tedious preamble. Simply answer this one question. A third bullet has been identified at the scene of the crime. What do you make of that? Make of it, Gov? I don't make nothing of nothing if I... Is it one of yours? God blimey, Gov, God blimey, not a chance. In that case, did you have an accomplice? What? Eh? What? Never! The Skulkin brothers work alone. It's just the two of us, that's our trademark. How soon we forget poor Sulky. Only 2 of the bullets from the crime scene originated from the firearms we have in evidence. The third bullet was fired from another gun. Where is it? Lummy, us an head scratcher. Counsel for the defense. Yes? I should like to hear your thoughts regarding these new developments. The third bullet, and the mysterious missing firearm from whence it came. Thinking back over all the testimony we've heard and all the evidence we've seen, I think I'm starting to form a picture. A picture of what really happened that night. Well, I hope you don't hope me to be up to date with it, because, I don't know. My lord, I think it's clear what this third bullet tells us about the Skulkin brothers. I mean, it's gotta be either secret accomplice or it's nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them, I guess? I believe it has nothing to do with them. Eh? Eh, Nash, eh? That's right. Yeah, nothing to do with us, Gov. We've established that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 guns already known to the court. The logical conclusion, therefore, is that on the night in question at Mr. Winterbank's pawnbrokery, there was another person present in possession of a third firearm. Whilst the brothers may have had nothing to do with the third gun or the bullet fired from it, it's inconceivable that they had nothing to do with the third man. Yes, the brothers were working with an accomplice who was carrying a gun. An accomplice, you say? Pigswill. These protracted proceedings have already forced us to endure 2 summation examinations. Yet in all that time there has been not a murmur of a third man, if this apparently wraith-like being exists. The court must be shown hard evidence. Without it, this fantasy will be crushed. Oh, it must be Eggert Benedict. 'Cause he was the one who got blood on the thingy-mabob, wasn't he? The prosecution demands answers on 2 counts. Firstly, proof, evidence, that this accomplice was ever at the scene of the crime. And secondly, the identity of this spurious character. The Skulkins are lying, I know that. But how can I ascertain the identity of the person they're hiding? Well, counsel? I'm supposed to prove the existence of this accomplice, and reveal the person's identity, even. In response to the prosecution's demands, my lord, the defense is... I think we're good to go. The defense is ready. I believe I can provide all the answers the prosecution demands. So, my friend, despite the swimming eyes, you seem to think you have something to say. This promises to be interesting. I have to push forward now. There's no other option. I need to use every single piece of evidence available to me if it will make a difference. In that case, counsel, I would ask you to present the evidence without delay. On the night in question, in the moments leading up to the death of the victim, what proof have you that there was a third intruder present at the scene?
Take that!
The evidence is right here, in this portfolio. By Jove, that portfolio again, is it? Do you expect the court to rifle through your papers itself? Be more specific. You claim one of those blood samples proves the presence of this third intruder. Well, which one is it? Presumably you.
Take that!
What am I looking at here? There appears to be some green paint or such like around the bullet hole in the middle of the calendar. That's a bloodstain, my lord. A bloodstain? Green blood. Curious, even for you. Is the court to understand that the intruder was some unhuman creature? It's something developed by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. By the great detective? New inventions, stop. Not yet appeared in stories, stop. It's this, you see. It doesn't have a name yet, though. This fogger sprays a chemical that reacts with the different elements in people's blood to change its colour. Different elements of people's blood? Yes, everyone's blood is slightly different, you see, because it's made up of different elements. So by seeing what colour it changes to, you can tell in a flash whose blood it is. Ooh, that brings a whole extra dimension to looking at blood. Talk of blood in courtrooms, stop. Very exciting, stop. As an example, this one shows the blood of the victim, Mr. Winterbank. Ah, a striking blue. Yes, so you see, the green colour of this bloodstain on the calendar shows that somebody else was shot in the main part of the shop. Now hold fire there, young man. Could be from some unrelated incident, couldn't it? No, it's not unrelated. The date showing on the calendar is the date on which Mr. Winterbank was killed. By golly. Therefore, we can assume that whoever was shot on the same day. And whose blood is it? Well, the Skulkin brothers in the stand don't appear to be suffering from any gunshot injuries. Which means it must be the blood of somebody else. The third intruder, in fact.
Objection!
Whose identity the court is still waiting to hear. You can't delay this any longer, my friend. Who is this alleged third intruder? It's this dude.
Take that!
The man's name is Eggert Benedict. And we're about to get laughed out of the court, aren't we? Eggert Benedict? Who on earth are you talking about, counsel? He paid a visit to Winterbank's pawnbrokery on the afternoon before the incident took place. When the accused attempted to deceive the pawnbroker into releasing this article into her possession. That's right. The man identified by the defence, Mr. Eggert Benedict, then attempted to take the article from the defendant by force. Broker? Yes, sir? I believe this filthy pocket thief has just redeemed an article from you, no? Yes, the article in question belongs to me. I demand for it to be returned at once. Now that's a lie. What are you trying to pull? Give me back my overcoat, you wastrel, and needless to say... any music box discs too. Inspector Gregson was there at the time and can attest to what happened. In the end, it was the inspector himself who took the disc. Can you corroborate this account, Inspector? Yes, my lord. That's more or less what happened. In the interest of being thorough, I asked Winterbank for a print showing the fellow. Well done. Taken from one of his red-handed recorder gubbinses. Good word, gubbinses. Yes, that's him talking to Mr. Winterbank that morning. Would you claim this man is the brother's accomplice? Well, Mr. and Mr. Skulkin. Never seen the geezer before in my life. On my life, Gov, on my life. Never seen him. Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, it appears our witnesses disagree with the assertion. I can't read. Hi, I'm Aurora, I'm 24 years old, and I never learnt how to read. I'm sure your lordship recalls my learned friend's actual assertion, which was that he could prove the identity of the alleged accomplice. Yeah? Yes, and I can. And show us the evidence. I agree. We must see proof that the clean-cut gentleman in the photograph is the filthy criminal you say he is. This is the last piece of evidence. I've had a feeling that something has been missing in this trial from the very start. But now, I'm going to drag it kicking and screaming into the courtroom. Are you ready to present your answer to the court then, counsel? Yes, my lord. The defence will present the evidence now. Proof that the man pictured in this photographic print was in fact the person struck by the third bullet. It's either the portfolio or the disc. I'm gonna guess it's the disc.
Take that!
Yeah, that sounds hopeful. As I mentioned before, on the afternoon of the day in question, the defendants attempted, deceitfully admittedly, to reclaim this disc from Windibanks, which is when the aforementioned Eggert Benedict appeared on the scene, I believe. This man then attempted to purloin the article from the defendant's possession, no? That's correct, my lord. I myself was present at the time. It was following this that a minor incident occurred. But of course, sir, here is the disc for you. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to style. Wait a minute, that disc is mine. Ah, what do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal. Weird choice of music for this segment, but okay. Being a music box disc, it has countless small but sharp metal protrusions over its surface. Those protrusions cause Mr. Benedict's finger to bleed, and the resulting smear of blood is still visible on the disc now. Goodness, a bloodstain, is it? My assistants and I have just analysed the bloodstain here in this very courtroom.
Using my trusty fog again.
Yes, and we added the results to this portfolio. I say, it's green. It's exactly the same colour as the blood around the calendar. The evidence is conclusive. The man calling himself Mr. Eggert Benedict, who was in Windibanks earlier in the day, is the accomplice who was present at the scene of the crime that same night. So there was someone else there. Look at those two brothers now, they're sweating buckets. Oi, who are you talking about? It's boiling in here. My lord, it is the opinion of the defence that Mr. Eggert Benedict should be summoned to the courtroom to testify. It would certainly seem that we can ill afford to ignore this gentleman's apparent presence.
Objection!
This has gone on long enough now. This flagrant ignorance of the mechanics of law. Herlock Sholmes, you say? Yes, I've heard the name. A protagonist in a series of short stories for the vulgar classes. A god of detection or some such. And now you employ chemical substances devised by this fantastical persona in the highest court in the land. Do you expect us to take you seriously? The samples made by this plaything are not fit to be called evidence. So does he not know that Herlock's a real dude? And I assume Herlock's about to turn up in court. So the bloodstain turned a shade of green. What of it? Here's to you successfully proving that no other blood in the world would turn the same colour. Well... Yeah! And pray, do not even think of suggesting that we should take Mr. Sholmes' word for it. Ugh. Is he right? Is Mr. Sholmes' concoction a load of rubbish? I don't know. I mean, he is a great detective. What are you talking about? We can't let him get away with that. I knew it would come to this. Of course Mr. Sholmes' invention isn't going to be recognised by any official body. But what other choice did I have?
I'm just remembering what Father Christmas over there said before. About how he was temporarily suspending the summation examination.
I love that someone else called out that he looks like Father Christmas. Was Father Christmas a thing in that time period? I don't have the energy to ask these questions, because I probably won't get answers.
In other words, the examination isn't over yet, is it?
Good grief, what did you just say, young girl?
And in a summation examination, the decision as to whether or not the trial continues is in the hands of the 6 jurors, isn't it? So the way I see it doesn't matter what certain other people think of Hurley's invention.
Ah yes, the wrath of the 10-year-old girl defeating the however-old law prosecutor dude. Oh, what a game.
At least, not for now.
Yes, she's right. Young lady, you have quite the devious mind.
It really just comes down to one thing. Whether these ladies and gentlemen of the jury are convinced by what you say, Bruno. Is that about right, would you say? Or did I misunderstand something?
Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes's partner is a force to be reckoned with.
Iris Wilson, sharpshooter.
After that shrewd precise of the situation from an entirely unexpected source, it must be acknowledged that the previous summation examination has yet to reach its conclusion. Please don't make me do more summationing. This episode's already going too long. This is absurd. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court now looks to you for your final leanings in this matter. As proud citizens of Her Majesty's Britain, I'm sure you'll come to a fair and just conclusion. Glad someone is. So then, state your final decisions in turn, please.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
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 Not guilty.
Ah. The surgeon headbanging the desk. Oh, I hadn't noticed that. 2 call guilty and 4 call not guilty. Such is the outcome of the summation examination.
Objection!
My lord, with all due respect, this is an outrage. The prosecution refuses to accept this decision. On what grounds? If these jurors are persuaded by some half-baked concoction devised by a pretender to real police work, then they are too ignorant to be trusted with the judgment of anyone's guilt. I'm sorry, Lord Van Zeeks, but the outcome of the summation examination cannot be ignored. This trial will continue. Ugh. Ah! And that's kind of a mood. I too am tired of this trial. Nevertheless, we find ourselves in a rather awkward situation. The defence has very reasonably requested the subpoena of a new witness. But sadly, I fear that will be impossible. What? The name the gentleman gave for himself, Eggert Benedict, is quite clearly false. I flipping hope it is, but this is an Ace Attorney game, so it's not like they were setting high standards with Dead Man. I don't believe it. Just when I'd managed to prove the man was there that night. Could I say something? Who was that, please? Who spoke? It was me, my lord. Juror number 5? What have you to say, madam? If possible. Inspector? Eh? Me, ma'am? I wonder if you might show the photographic print to me again, the one in which the gentleman is shown. Ah, right, yes. This one, you mean? And Mr. Benedict. Yes. There's no doubt in my mind. Juror number 5, you don't mean to say. You know this man. Yes, I know him. What? No. Good gracious. Once again, jury ex machina. Will that never end? Juror number 5, how on earth? I'm a communications officer, stop. As we can clearly see, the gentleman in the photograph is, stop, also a communications officer, stop. He works in my office, stop. What? A very talented operator, in fact, stop. He should be in the communication station now, stop. Tapping away on the telegraph. I'm going to stop reading stops because, oh boy, it's getting tedious. This doesn't seem right somehow. I can't put my finger on why, but it doesn't feel right.
I suppose we'll imagine the accomplice would be some sort of hardened criminal. It's a bit unexpected to find out that he has a respectable job by day, whatever he gets up to at night.
Me with work in this YouTube channel. But if he's a communications officer and she said she specialised in kind of criminal things and news, does that mean he's using his position as a telegraphs officer to listen in on crime news and commit further crime? Because that's kind of hilarious. Yes, I suppose that's it. I suppose that's why I felt something was wrong. If the gentleman is at London's communication station, we should be able to subpoena him within the hour. Lord Van Zeeks, if you please. Yes, my lord. Make the necessary arrangements with all haste. As your lordship bids. The court will recess for 1 hour. When the new witness arrives, we shall reconvene to hear the gentleman's testimony. Inspector Gregson. Yes, my lord? I should like to hear from you specifically about events at the pawnbrokery on the day in question. Come to my chambers during the recess. Yes, sir, my lord. Very well. Court is adjourned until 1:40 p.m. Do we get the TBC now? Because I think I'm going to have to end this episode either way. Ah, yes. Thank you for being convenient, game. Love it when that happens. And so on that note, I will leave this episode here, because it's run on for quite a while. So thank you so much for watching and putting up with my antics as usual. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.